Welcome to the deep dive. If you're getting into media studies, or even if you're well into it, understanding how messages actually work is key.
Absolutely. It's like looking under the hood.
Yeah, exactly. And this is about powering up those analytical skills, looking at how media talks to us.
And for that, well, Roland Barthes is just essential. You can't really avoid him, can you? His work gives us this amazing lens for seeing how meaning gets made.
So that's our plan for this deep dive. We're going to unpack Barthes' big ideas, denotation, connotation, semiotics. We've got some examples from his work to make it less abstract.
And we'll also touch on his idea of media as myth, which is really fascinating.
Okay, let's jump in. Where do we start? Barthes begins with two core concepts, right?
Yes. Denotation and connotation. And denotation is, well, it's the simplest level. It's just the literal description, what is actually there.
Okay, so like the I, Daniel Blake poster example he uses, if we just look at it denotatively, what are we seeing?
Literally. You see an older man, he's wearing dark clothes, his fist is raised, that's it. No interpretation, just the facts of the image.
Right, the bare bones description.
Yeah.
But nobody really stops there, do they? Our brains immediately start adding layers.
Exactly. And that's connotation kicking in. That's where all the symbolic stuff, the cultural meanings, the emotions get attached.
So back to the posters, the raised fist. We see that, and based on everything we know culturally.
We think resistance, maybe protest, solidarity. It's not in the fist itself, but it's what the fist means to us.
And the dark clothes could suggest, what? Maybe poverty? Working class?
Could be.
Right.
And the overall dark look of the poster, the mood, might suggest seriousness, struggle. It all builds on our shared cultural library, you know?
It's like we're constantly decoding without even realizing it. So media hits us on these two levels, the literal and the coded, almost at the same time.
Precisely. And these readings aren't just random guesses. They're shaped by our culture, our experiences. It's quite amazing how fast we jump from seeing the thing denotation to understanding what it suggests connotation.
Like a mental shortcut. Okay, so literal meaning, interpreted meaning. How does Barthes give us a system for analyzing this whole meaning-making business?
Well, that's where semiotics comes in. It was absolutely central for Barthes. Semiotics is basically the study of signs and symbols, how they work, how they make meaning.
Right, the language of media, almost. For media studies students, this is like foundational stuff, isn't it? Looking at everything, images, sounds, text to signs.
Totally. It draws on linguistics, but applies it way beyond words. It gives us a method to systematically break down how meaning is conveyed culturally.
And a sign always has two parts, the signifier and...
The signified, correct. The signifier is the thing itself, the word, the image, the sound, what you actually perceive.
Like seeing a red rose in a movie. The rose itself is the signifier.
Exactly. And the signified is the concept, the idea that pops into your head.
So love, passion, maybe romance. Could even be danger in some contexts.
Yeah, precisely. And media creators pack their work full of these signs. Think about costumes, colors, camera shots, music. They choose these things deliberately, expecting us, the audience, to read them based on our shared cultural understanding.
So media is like a language full of these signs, but Barthes has also said this meaning isn't just fixed, like a dictionary definition.
No, absolutely not. That's crucial. He really stressed that meaning is actively made by the audience. It depends on your background, your experiences, the context you see it in.
Which means media is never truly neutral, is it?
Yeah.
It's always pushing some kind of meaning, even subtly. A huge point for anyone analyzing media.
Definitely. It's always communicating, always constructing a version of reality.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, often images don't stand alone. Think print ads, websites, they have text with them. How does that text change how we read the image?
Right. This leads to two really useful concepts, anchorage and polysemy. Barthes has noticed that images on their own can often mean many different things. That's polysemy, poly meaning many, semi meaning signs or meanings.
Like, an image could be interpreted in multiple ways.
Exactly. But then text, like a headline or a caption, often comes along to pin down the meaning, to guide our interpretation in a specific direction. Barthes called this anchorage. The text anchors the meaning.
Okay, can you give us an example? Make it concrete.
Sure, the old Tide detergent ad is a classic Barthes example. There's this image, kind of weird, of a woman hugging a giant box of Tide detergent like she loves it.
Right, I think I know the one. Without text, you might think.
Yeah.
Consumerism gone mad. She's just really happy about laundry.
Yeah, it's ambiguous, polysemic.
Right.
But then you get the strapline, something like, Tide gets clothes cleaner, and suddenly.
Okay. The meaning is anchored. It's about how great Tide is at cleaning, and that's why she's so happy. The text locks it down.
Precisely. It directs you to the intended commercial message. Without that anchor, the image is much more open. Understanding this text-image relationship is vital for media analysis.
So the text really steers the interpretation.
It certainly limits the possibilities, yes.
Got it. Okay, we're building a toolkit here. Barthes also gave us some practical questions to ask while looking at media images, didn't he? Good prompts for students.
He did. They're really helpful for pushing past just a quick glance and digging deeper into visual media.
Let's run through a few. First, who's actually in the picture?
Mhm.
How are they posed? What are their expressions saying? What's the relationship between them?
Yeah, basic but crucial. Then look at the mise en scène. What's in the background? The props, costumes, the setting itself. What could they symbolize?
And lighting, always important. How is light used? Shadows. What kind of mood does it create?
Absolutely. And composition, how the shot is framed, where are things placed? Is the main subject dead center or off to the side? What does that suggest?
And nowadays, post-production is huge. Use of color, black and white. How does that filtering affect how we feel about the image?
And finally, circling back, is there any text, headlines, captions? How is it working to anchor or maybe even play with the image's meaning? These questions are like a starting checklist for deconstruction.
Definitely moves you from just looking to actually analyzing. Now, Barthes took it even further, didn't he? With his 5 codes, this sounds more complex, like different layers working together.
That's a great way to put it. It's like an orchestra, with different elements playing together. These 5 codes help explain how all these parts interact to create a richer meaning. The first is the hermeneutic code.
The enigma code, right? Creating questions, mysteries, pulling the audience in.
Exactly, making you want to know what happens next, or what does this mean? In that Tide ad, maybe the initial enigma is just, why is she hugging laundry detergent? Or perhaps on a deeper level, what defines happiness for women in this context? It hooks you.
Okay. Then the proeretic code, that's about action.
Yeah, clues about actions happening or about to happen. It builds narrative expectation. So seeing the washing machine in the Tide ad implies the action of washing, which reinforces the ad's point about cleaning.
Makes sense. And the semantic code, that's about the connotations of specific details.
Right. Little things, the font style in the Tide ad, those exclamation marks, they suggest excitement, energy, maybe a kind of bubbly, idealized domestic feeling. These small choices add up.
Okay, number 4 is the symbolic code.
Yeah.
This is bigger picture stuff.
Yes, moving beyond specific connotations to broader themes or ideas. So in the Tide ad, the obsession with whiteness and cleanliness could symbolize deeper cultural ideas about purity, order, maybe even linking to social ideals about the perfect home or the role of women.
Right, the underlying values. And the last one, the cultural code.
This is all about the shared knowledge we bring as viewers. It's the stuff the text assumes we already know.
Like recognizing cultural references.
Exactly. The Tide ad, for instance, apparently echoed the Rosie the Riveter We Can Do It poster. If you recognize that, it taps into a whole network of ideas about female strength, patriotism, domestic work's importance. It relies on your cultural backpack.
Wow. So these 5 codes show how meaning is woven together from narratives, symbols, cultural references. It's not just one thing.
It's a complex tapestry. Really shows how much is going on beneath the surface of even a simple ad.
Okay, this brings us to Barthes' really big idea about media's role in society media as myth. And we're not talking ancient Greek myths here.
No, not directly. Barthes used myth to talk about how media operates ideologically in our world. He argued that media doesn't just show us reality, it actively shapes it. Like old myths taught lessons and reinforced norms, modern media does something similar, making certain views seem natural or obvious.
He wrote mythologies about this, looking at ads, politics, wrestling, all sorts of things.
He did. He showed how ads give everyday things magical qualities, how politicians try to seem like one of us, how media constantly reinforces ideas about social roles, values, stereotypes, often without us even noticing. It just becomes normal.
And he identified some key ways this happens, these ideological effects. The first one is naturalization.
Yes. That's when media makes certain ideas or ways of life seem completely natural, like they've always been that way, just common sense. Think about, say, repeatedly seeing women doing all the housework in ads or shows. It can start to feel like that's just the way things are, naturally.
Even if it's a social construction.
Okay.
And the second effect, reduction.
Reduction is about simplification. Media often boils down complex issues into very simple terms, maybe to make them easier to understand quickly.
But that can be a problem, right?
It can, because it risks losing all the nuance, all the complexity. Big social or political problems get turned into simple good versus evil stories, which stops us from really thinking deeply about them.
And the third one, power reinforcement.
Yeah, this is a big one. Barthes has argued that the viewpoints and stories that tend to dominate the media often end up supporting the interests of those already in power.
How?
Well, people in groups with power generally have more control over media production, over what stories get told and how they're framed. So, their perspectives get amplified, while the stories of less powerful groups might be ignored or twisted. It reinforces the existing power structures.
Okay, so wrapping this all together, understanding denotation connotation is the first step. Then semiotics gives us the language of signs. Anchorage and polysemy explain text and image. The five codes offer a deeper analysis.
And the concept of myth helps us see the bigger ideological picture, how media shapes our view of the world.
For media studies students, these are just incredibly powerful tools, aren't they? For critical thinking.
Absolutely essential. Barthes helps you move from just consuming media to actively questioning it, deconstructing it, seeing how the messages are built, what they're really saying, and what effects they might have.
So a final thought for you listening, especially if you're deep in media studies, start looking for this stuff everywhere. Your Instagram feed, Netflix, the news. Can you spot denotation and connotation? Can you see how text anchors images?
Yeah, try applying the five codes, even roughly. What enigmas are being set up? What cultural codes are being tapped into? What symbolic meanings are lurking there?
And what myths, in Barthes' sense, are being pushed? What ideas about the world, about people, about success are being made to feel natural? Once you start looking through this lens,
Well, you can't unsee it.
you really can't. It changes
Yeah.
how you engage with everything.